Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. I would like to begin with a simple question. What do great coaches notice that everyone else misses? When most people watch a basketball game, they watch the ball. They watch the score, the offense, the defense, the saps, the mistakes, spectacular plays. Coaches watch those things too. But I think experienced coaches eventually begin watching something completely different. They start watching people. Not just how they perform, how they behave, because behavior often tells a story long before words do. One of the biggest changes in my coaching career wasn't learning a new offense or discovering a better defensive system. It was learning to observe more carefully. When I was younger, I thought coaching meant having answers. Now, I think coaching begins by paying attention. I have learned that every practice has two games taking place at the same time. There's a basketball game everyone else can see, and then there's the human game happening quietly underneath it. One player loses confidence after one missed shot, another becomes more determined, and someone stops communicating, and someone else quietly encourages a teammate. And one athlete begins to withdraw, another naturally brings people together. None of those moments appear on a stat sheet, yet every one of them influences the outcome. That's why I no longer believe observation is a passive skill. I think it's one of the most active responsibilities a coach has. Because you can't coach what you fail to notice. Sometimes we become so focused on correcting mistakes that we stop seeing the people making them. A turnover becomes just a turnover. Poor body language becomes an attitude problem. Silence becomes a lack of leadership. But coaching has taught me that behavior always deserves another question. Why? Why did that player suddenly stop talking? Why is someone who normally competes with great energy unusually quiet today? Why did that athlete react so strongly to what seemed like a small correction? Young coaches often rush toward instructions. Experienced coaches become curious first. That curiosity changes everything. It reminds us that performance is rarely separated from the person performing. I have watched athletes carry pressure from school into practice. I have watched family situations affect confidence without anyone else realizing it. And I have watched players smile throughout an entire workout while quietly struggling inside. Those experiences taught me something important. Not every problem announces itself. Some simply wait for someone to notice. And I think that's one of the greatest responsibilities of leadership. Not assuming, not labeling, not rushing to conclusions. Simply noticing. The interesting thing about observation is that it requires patience. You can't understand people in one practice, or one conversation, or one season. Understanding is something you earn by paying attention consistently. Small patterns begin to appear. You notice who responds well to challenge, who needs encouragement, who becomes quieter under pressure, who naturally leads, or who follows, who carries more responsibility than they admit. The longer I coach, the less interested I become in first impressions. Because first impressions are often incomplete. People are much more complex than the first version we see. I also think observation changes the way we communicate. When we truly understand someone, we stop coaching everyone exactly the same way. We begin asking better questions. We become slower to judge, more thoughtful in our feedback, more intentional with our expectations. Not because our standards change, but because our understanding grows. That isn't lowering accountability, it's improving leadership. One of my favorite moments during practice isn't when a drill runs perfectly. It's when I notice something that everyone else overlooked. The quiet player who finally speaks, the teammate who instinctively encourages someone after a mistake, the athlete who chooses responsibility without being asked. Those moments remind me that real development is happening. not only as basketball players, as people. Perhaps that's why I no longer think the whistle defines coaching. The whistle starts drills, stops drills, it organizes practice, but it cannot tell you where confidence is growing. It can't tell you who feels isolated. It cannot tell you which teammate quietly holds the group together. Those things can only be discovered through observation. And observation requires something that has become increasingly rare: presence. Not simply being in the gym, being fully present, watching with intention, listening beyond words, paying attention to details that never appear in a scouting report. I sometimes wonder if that's what experience really is. Not knowing more basketball, simply seeing more. Seeing what younger coaches overlook. Seeing what stats cannot measure. Seeing the human side of performance before trying to improve the performance itself. Because in the end, every coach has access to drills. Every coach has access to systems. Every coach has access to information. What separates great coaches is often much quieter than that. It is the ability to recognize what others never noticed, to ask the question nobody asks, to see the person long before everyone else only sees the player. Maybe that's why the whistle can never teach us. The whistle tells us when practice begins. Experience teaches us what deserves our attention. And perhaps the greatest coaches aren't remembered because they always had the right answers. Perhaps they are remembered because they learned to notice the right things.